Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today on our very first virtual launch. We're so excited to show you how we're going to take banking beyond the branch. My name is Chandni Patel and I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Doxim and your moderator for today. Here's a quick look at our agenda before we get started. I see we have new FIs joining us today, so we'll do a quick intro into Doxim for those of you who don't know us. We'll also talk a little bit about the trends shaping the digital banking future and then focus the bulk of the presentation on discussing what it takes to deliver an end-to-end service, self-service origination solution. And of course, end off with what you've all been waiting for, a demo of Doxim self-service origination. I'm joined here by our two very special guests today. We've got our very own Sean Kennelly, who many of you on the call have already met. He is our VP of Product Management for Doxim Customer Engagement Solutions, and really he's our in-house expert on all things digitization. Joining him today is AJ Hunt, who is the co-founder of Mobitize. AJ has been in the industry for over 15 years and is an expert in the field of digital KYC and payments. So before I hand it off to Sean, I'd like to remind everybody that all attendees are in listen-only mode. So if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please submit them via your attendee panel. We'll be sure to take a few minutes at the end of the presentation to answer any questions you've got. You'll also receive an email link to the recording of the webinar in a couple of days, so please feel free to share it with your colleagues who couldn't attend today. So with all that covered, I'll pass it off to Sean.
Thanks, Jenny. So I'm just going to start briefly with a little intro about Doxim. So for those folks that aren't maybe fully aware, so the company's been around for around 2 decades. We do have approximately 2,000-ish customers, 700 employees across North America, in multiple operating locations for all of the products and services that we offer. And I'll touch a little bit specifics on the products themselves in a later slide. But just as an organization, as you can see, pretty large breadth and depth of clients, predominantly in financial services, regulated industries, and mostly servicing the Canadian financial space with the products we're talking about today. And so in terms of where we sit today, we serve over around 350 Canadian financial institutions, either directly or indirectly, through the various products and services that we have, everything from, origination down to document composition, digital documents, digital messaging, all of those pieces. So when it comes to the actual products we offer and our, raison d'etre, the reason we exist as an organization, really for a long time, and the company was originally created to more or less eliminate paper. So to support these digital touch points with clients in terms of being able to say, hey, we don't need, mountains and rooms and filing cabinets full of paper. Let's try and bring that into tangible software, that can go cross-channel, digital access, those types of things. And so for the last 20 years, we've been building and acquiring and investing in technology that really allows us to help our clients with multi-channel or omni-channel access to documents, messages, business processes through the tools that we offer. The applications that we build are quite complex. They have a lot of nuts and bolts to them. They are in all instances directly connected to banking systems or share data with core systems. So there's a lot of really great complexity that Doxim specializes in when we build these products, and the purpose of creating these flows across complex systems to support these digital and ever increasingly challenging or increasingly large processes that we need to support for our end customers. And so that's a little bit about us, and I'm going to focus the majority of my initial talking points here on some of what some of you folks have probably seen and heard today, but I think it's a really great way to set up the reason for the things that we do and the reason for the things that we build and the problems that we help our clients solve. And so, as you can see on the screen here, Microsoft permanently closing all of its retail stores. And so you have an example here of organizations that are going from physical footprint. They were fully digital. They didn't really have any locations. They started to put out a bunch of locations and now have actually retracted that because of consumer behavior in terms of how consumers are expecting to buy and use and need support for their products and services. And so here, I like this quote here. Your customers will experience less brick and more click. This is just a great example of how banking channels or channels altogether for almost all products and services are really going from physical, tangible assets to things that are much more digitally focused. So, a few great examples on the bottom left there. Again, you guys have probably seen a lot of these. Uber, world's largest taxi company, doesn't have any cars. Netflix doesn't own any cinemas. They are the largest provider of, of video and movie experiences today. And so again, things shifting from these heavily physical, very, person to person kinds of business operating models to more digital, more self-serve, more online communication. And that's just, the way that the market is going. And that also, just as much applies to banking as it does really any vertical or any industry. And so this is, we got, I think, a lot of stats that we talk about on these webinars, and I think they're really valuable, really just to reinforce, the importance or reinforce a tangible change that's happening in the market. And so, big one here, we know that e-commerce has effectively exploded exponentially in these COVID times where people aren't or are trying to avoid actually sitting in front of somebody, or trying to avoid bringing a mobile mortgage broker into their house. In some occasions, they actually want to now in some instances engage digitally or buy digitally or acquire new products and services digitally. And so e-commerce again is the usage of e-commerce and adoption of e-commerce is significantly increasing, and that is no different in the banking and online banking space. And these big tech companies are obviously taking advantage of the digital space. They are investing a lot in these digital consumer experiences, and these examples I have on the screen, they are very much getting into FinServe kinds of use cases when it comes to their business model. So how can they take their current business model and start to offer other products and services that they know their end customers are interested in having great experiences around? So I think it's really important when it comes to us as financial services organizations to really be cognizant of the change and to want to reshape and remold ourselves as fast, or hopefully faster than some of the other folks that are trying to do the same thing. A great example, some of you guys might have seen this or heard of this, Domino's, order by phone, walk into a pizza shop and make an order. A few years ago, they started converting to a fully digital buying experience. And today, at least in the US market, 3/4 of their product sales effectively come through a digital channel. So customers going to a site saying, I want this product, and then reviewing the progress of that product. So how long till I get my dinner? How long till I get my pizza? That example is becoming a standard expectation when people are, subscribing to or buying or engaging in new products and services. So an example would be, if I'm a client and I'm looking for a mortgage, for example, I want to start that online. I want to engage in that process online. It might not be, me sitting in front of the computer for 10 minutes and getting a mortgage, but I'll want to know, how far am I along in the process? Am I a week away? Am I 2 days away? Is somebody looking at it? Is an approver looking at it? Do they need more information from me? So clients being able to engage in that way with tools online is becoming more critical, and is really becoming the norm. Like if you can see pizza delivery getting into this mode, I think it's only extending out further and further into more critical products and services the clients are looking at, looking at acquiring. And I did mention earlier that this is not just pizza. This is not just Netflix, movies. It's not just buying books and widgets. It's really permeating into everything. And I think banking, that's what we're here to talk about, is really no different. The change has already started. People have been talking about this stuff for years, but there is a lot of movement in this area, right? There's a whole re-enabling of the digital experience in the Canadian market. I know almost 100%, probably not 100, but let's say 90% of the credit unions, for example, in Canada, have over the last year and over the next year are completely reshaping and completely redesigning their external consumer experience with, a couple of the newer digital banking platforms that are coming to market. And so that's just one example of, one area where folks are starting to reimagine and redesign these experiences so they can meet, those client demands. And, though COVID, I think really has, I use this example before, has kind of like poured gas on the fire, right? It's expedited a lot of digital adoption. It's proven that digital adoption is not going to drop. Like once things kind of regulate themselves and business is quote unquote back to business as usual, whatever that new as usual looks like, that the demand and usage of digital channels is not going to trickle away. It is only going to increase. So again, think of it, gas on the fire. Now the flame is big. That flame is not going to get any smaller over time. And the CEO of Microsoft, again, same kind of thing that I had mentioned. We've seen 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months, and so really expediting the speed of change in the digital space is nothing I think that we need to, or I guess it's something that we really need to be aware of and be cognizant of. And so what we're getting to and what these organizations do and provide, if you think about the big tech or the big five, or some of those fintech or FinServe folks that are coming into market, is that they are less thinking about the process, less thinking about the regulation, again, which is sometimes not to their benefit, but more thinking about the experience, right? So the consumer's experience, the consumer's buying, and the consumer's usage experience. And this, again, applying directly into banking the same way it does to buying pizza or, again, trying to consume a movie or anything like that. So this isn't really, I think, something that we can ignore. Creating this really clean buying experience and really clean and efficient and top-notch usage experience is going to be critical for financial institutions over the coming years. And so we have Jim, if any of you guys know this guy, Jim Maru. He's kind of a digital banking expert, if you want to call him that. And one thing that he had noted was really that the success to digital banking transformation is going to be supporting the things that consumers need to do seamlessly across different channels, different applications, different platforms, so that the experience can actually be made seamless. The experience can be made efficient and fast, both for the consumer, obviously most importantly, but also for the folks that are supporting those business processes actually within the branch network, or within the not necessarily branches, but within the financial institution itself and all the users. And so when we talk about Doxim and the products that we build, what we're designing is really more or less exactly that. We've been talking about a platform of applications we've had for years, gluing those applications together, creating seamless processes across those applications. Example being something coming from an online channel, maybe a social media ad, that flowing into an online origination process, that flowing into a CRM to manage a workflow, an onboarding process, to being able to actually communicate with that client across those digital channels, service them, give them those products, and then continually manage that digital relationship across the touch points that client is expecting. And so this is really, when we talk about the products that Doxim builds and the platform that we have, it's putting these pieces together. And what we're here to talk about specifically today is really that the journey of subscribing to new products and services through that digital or through that online channel. And so today, we're going to spend quite a bit of time, talking about this, which is really the new product that we are bringing to market, which is an online origination tool that allows both existing clients and prospective clients to open accounts within minutes, loans for existing customers within minutes, and with all of the regulatory pieces in place to verify IDs, verify documents, KYC checks, biometrics, all of those included directly in the solution, and again, fully integrated into the Doxim platform application. So when we talk about the products that we have today as Doxim, we've predominantly been in this, the section at the bottom of the wheel here, which is a lot of the user-assisted cases. But now we're moving full steam ahead into these digital or self-service first experiences that are, again, fully embedded into the platform applications that we build. And so there's, tons of efficiency when we're talking about why it makes sense for it to be part of a platform. Why does it make sense to not be a point solution? I'm not going to touch on, I'm not going to effectively read this slide, but I think there's a couple really great nuggets on this screen that you folks can just take a look at quickly. Shared services across applications. The multi-channel or omni-channel journeys from the process and communication standpoint. These are really the pieces that we focus on as an organization. And so when we're talking about the really top level business problems that we are working towards solving are really these three. I think there's tons of nuts and bolts underneath it, but these are the top three. So one is, the reducing of abandoned applications. So applications that start online and never finish, right? So the client may have been interrupted. They may not be, or feel like they may not be interested, or maybe they got sidetracked with scrolling through Facebook or something. But there's massive stats around, apps that are actually completed online fully in one interaction are still relatively low in terms of the number of accounts and loans that are originated. So trying to address that business problem by making sure that process is clean. The second one, eliminating disjointed or inconsistent onboarding experiences. So making sure that as the client is being onboarded across channels, that we have access to the data that we need. We have access to being able to interact with that client application and actually directly interact with that consumer through digital channels as being top of mind in terms of being able to accomplish that process digitally without ever having to, in some instances, call them or ask them to come into a branch or have to go, see them in their house. And then the third, again, which AJ would touch on a little bit, is mitigating the fraud and risk. Or risk management, I guess you could call it, around these digital experiences. That, again, trying to make sure that there's 1 to 5% of digital applications online. See these stats that show that and as digital becomes more prevalent, it will increase, right? There'll be a lot of fraudulent attempts at opening accounts. There'll be a lot of people, trying to build synthetic IDs and trying to get loans, get accounts, move funds. And so being able to handle that in a great way, again, is top of mind for the products that we're putting together here. And so as part of this, I'm going to hand it off to AJ in a second here, but just wanted to introduce AJ and Mobitize. And so as part of bringing this product to market, we made a very tangible decision to partner with a team that has a lot of experience in certain areas that are maybe not Doxim specialties. And so, bringing alongside, the image here is two puzzle pieces that fit really well together is exactly that. So, Mobitize, they specialize in KYC, online risk mitigation. They focus on digital. They have expertise in online money movement. And so we really wanted to take these concepts that, Mobitize is specializing in and bring that expertise into the Doxim product and have them actually move this initiative forward. So Mobitize is effectively building the self-service platform that is directly connected into the Doxim platform, but to any end consumer, it effectively is the product, right? Fully integrated, fully connected, everything kind of flowing through the channels as one. And so I will let, I'll let AJ kind of take over here, introduce himself and his team or his organization a little bit in terms of what they do, and then we'll go from there. So thanks, AJ.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate the kind introduction, and thanks for everyone also joining us in our virtual launch. So we've got a pretty aggressive agenda, as you can see, and a live demo that we're going to do. So I'll try and make this as efficient as possible. We're extremely excited to be partnered with Doxim in this initiative in the self-serve origination digital platform. Just a little bit, I'll spend a minute or so talking a little bit about Mobitize for those of you who we haven't worked with in the past. But Mobitize, we're a B2B fintech. We have a number of unique solutions for financial institutions on the digital front, focused around mostly cross-border payments and self-serve origination. On the cross-border payments, we serve both the P2P money movement space as well as the B2B money movement space in about 240 countries, and support 90 plus currencies on our platform. And specifically with Doxim, we're very much focused on the self-serve origination platform and really leveraging data innovation and being able to remove friction in the customer journey and being able to enhance the compliance aspect of it. We were one of the first companies in the Canadian fintech scene about 3.5-4 years ago that brought a lot of this new technology around ID document verification, combining that in different methods and orchestration for facial biometrics, data analytics, social biometrics, and really making that a part of a KYC process that remains FinTrack compliant. One thing we all know in today's environment is that the concept of digital doesn't really simply mean that a consumer can apply for a product online or on a mobile device. This whole entire application process and the onboarding journey must be done without any kind of manual assistance. And that also includes whether that's compliance, KYC, it could be the funding process, giving choices on the funding process of let's say a deposit account, or the disbursement of a loan. All of that has to have seamlessly. And that's kind of been our goal with Doxim in our journey, is how do we break the barrier so you no longer have to face fake digital as a financial institution. So when we talk about breaking the barriers in digital account opening, in our journey, we spoke to a lot of banks, credit unions, talked about different challenges, and I think Sean did a good job of touching on some of those challenges. And what we wanted to do in this is really leverage behavioral science, innovation, enhance data analytics, and create a cohesive solution that leveraged both strengths of Doxim as well as Mobitize. And what was really interesting, it's always exciting when the seeds of a partnership get planted by mutual customers. So some of this really originated with some clients that we both work with that said, hey, Doxim's got some real deep expertise in their platforms that are in branch and so on and so forth. And what we have done with those clients on digital and kind of bringing us together to help solve these industry challenges. And that's where it all started for us. And when we got together with Doxim, the things that we really focused on is how can we, from a DAO or a digital account origination perspective, improve the customer journey, make sure there's onboarding success, eliminate the abandonment that's faced by customers and clients, also be able to enhance revenue, also be able to look at targeted demographics. So part of the strategies for financial institutions when they're doing marketing campaigns is targeting different demographics and being able to make sure that you can target those demographics in the right way and put them through the channel and lead to onboarding success. With that comes increased operational efficiency, being able to reduce operational costs, onboarding costs. We all know how expensive it can be if there's an abandoned process and somebody has to move through a call center process, and then it can take days or weeks to finish up that process with documents going back and forth and so on and so forth. Another key consideration that we looked at was how do we get increase in product to customer ratios? So really having a true multiple product cross-selling opportunity, a shopping cart style or an Amazon style shopping cart for different products and services, which leads to its own challenges. And those challenges being around different types of data elements that you have to collect from a client or a consumer based on the product that they're signing up for, that are required from a FinTrack compliance perspective. So that kind of lends into the whole strategies around reducing fraud, enhancing compliance, and also another key area is prevent losing a customer to competition or one of the FinServe type of organizations that Sean had mentioned. So when we looked at this, what was really the outcome of this partnership? And it really was a focus and an obsession and passion around product, compliance, and customer experience. And really what we said is, look, we want to create a wow moment for the customer or the client. And at the end of the day, for them to go through a process that's under 5 minutes, be able to sign up for a product or service, and also at the same time, be able to fund an account and do other transactions once you've signed up. So I'll talk a little bit. I know we've gone through some statistics. This one, just a couple of slides on this, which I found very interesting, is it was a very recent study done over the winter of 2019 and 2020 by the Information Security Media Group, ISMG. There was roughly about 100 financial institutions that responded. And within those responses, 63% of them focused on retail banking. The majority were North American financial institutions, and 37% of them were financial institutions with about 40 billion plus in assets. I think there was a little glitch there. Channy, I think I've lost control. Someone else, there we go. Okay. And when we looked at this study, the number one business objective for all of these institutions was really focused on improving the customer experience. And really that's focusing on removing friction, removing the broken processes leading to abandonment. And when you kind of dive a little bit deeper from the what of what is it they're trying to achieve, you get into a little bit of the how. And in the same survey, 60% of the respondents were focused around digital identity verification and really focusing on data intelligence and how can you remove friction from that user experience through innovation. And a lot of this comes in many different types of solutions. So there's not just one solution. There's a number of things that we've incorporated into this. There's about 8 or 9 different types of technologies, thousands of different databases that we hit. And some of those examples would be things like device intelligence, validating your social footprint through social biometrics. Sean talked about the identity and document verification as well. So there's a number of things that we orchestrate based on different needs of compliance, based on product, so we can optimize risk management and minimize the customer friction. Another thing we learned from the survey was that 70% of the financial institutions that were surveyed didn't feel that they provided what their customers needed from a complete digital end-to-end onboarding, which we knew here there's an opportunity for us to help the industry, the ecosystem with these challenges. And what does that really mean? What we call is really faking digital. And, we've all experienced in a financial services path, we're online, we invest 10 to 15 minutes of our time. And at the end of that process, we end up with some sort of message that says, thanks for submitting the application. Please visit, your nearest branch we couldn't verify your identity. Please visit the nearest branch or a Canada post office in Canada. I've had that happen to me as well. And that's where some of the abandonment starts to occur. And, one thing that we have to all agree as an industry and an ecosystem is that simple data collection really diminishes the value of digital. We know that the customer has an expectation that we can't continue to fake digital, and a mediocre experience for a consumer versus a wow moment can make a big difference in terms of providing that instant gratification and being able for a financial institution to be able to achieve their goals that they set for digital. Which leads us into another interesting topic, which is this constant battle that we have within financial institutions around marketing and risk management. And that's really this balancing act between risk and customer experience with innovation. As organizations, we're always trying to achieve both at every step, which can be a very complex process. And we've been very passionate about how can we do that? How can we put the control of managing this risk management and customer experience into the control of the financial institution. And there's a number of things that we've done in our system, which is a very configurable platform. It's very template driven. You as an FI can set those controls. A good example is how important is email address. Through our social biometrics, we can find and confirm that an email address is maybe 2 days old or is it 15 years old. How important is that to you in terms of your potential fraud score? Do you want to put that application into a review process, or do you want to take that application all the way through and allow them to complete the process? So there's a lot of different configurations. That's just one example. But at the end of the day, when you go through this type of a journey with the solution, you end up with a real digital end-to-end origination platform that meets the goals of a financial institution, which is really decreasing your time to fund, decreasing your time to go through the entire process end-to-end, have a successful onboarding, and take that down from days, weeks, down to minutes. And using the philosophy of making it multi-channel and multiple platform oriented, dynamic product driven workflow. So it could be as simple as a savings account, which goes through a real simple template and you're done within a few minutes. Or it could be bundled products with a savings account and maybe a loan, and maybe there's an extra few clicks. We can leverage what we've already collected, collect a few more pieces of information, put it down the same path, and now we've got this bundle of products that we can approve immediately along through funding and disbursement, which a lot of that is achieved through the technologies and solutions around the KYC, the analytics, the risk scoring. So when you think about what you achieve as a financial institution is this consistent user flow that provides your client with real interactions that build trust along the way. And it becomes a frictionless verification method and optimizes that journey and really makes compliance a secret weapon for you as a financial institution. And really what we call, I like to use the term a click to customer, a real frictionless onboarding experience. And the real beauty of all of this is with Doxim and Mobitize partnering together, we actually manage that complex technology stack and that orchestration for you, removing the risk of fraud as much as possible in that onboarding process. And what that really allows from a client perspective as a financial institution is that you're allowing your clients to choose what they need, when they need it, from wherever they want it, and however they want to interact, whether that's on a mobile device, a desktop, in the branch, through the call center. It's this consistent experience that they receive for any type of product or bundle of products that they want to select and choose. And one of the key things is obviously, you guys, I'm sure, as part of the teams in financial institutions that are solving these problems day to day, as you get into things like joint products, multiple products, how do you deal with those from a digital perspective? There's a lot of complexity, whether you're in a single session for a joint application or there's multiple sessions where people are not present and there's notifications and alerts that have to happen. So we've took all those things into consideration. The multiple products is really about enhancing that product to customer ratio. There's a lot of different complexities around addressing data elements that are from a compliance perspective, different from one product versus another product, especially when you get into lending products. There's a lot of differences in terms of what you need and what information you have to analyze and assess. And, some of the things, and I'll share with you just some personal experiences amongst our teams is, you get into these really passionate discussions about, for example, if you're going to provide save and resume, and you're going to be changing different channels partway through application processing, when you do that, and let's say I've chosen 3 products in my shopping cart, and all of a sudden I come back through a different channel and I decide I want to remove one but add 2 more. At what stage of that application process do you deal with it? How do you modify those products so it's elegant? So we did a lot of research and a lot of algorithms around how can we achieve that in the most elegant way. And one of the things that I want to share just from a Mobitize perspective, working with Doxim, is the depth of their systems and their processes within their platforms, and just for us to be able to work with a group that has all of the hooks into core banking, has all of the hooks into the complexities within their in-branch systems around AOS or LOS for deposit products and lending products, really gave us a fast, rapid time to market scenario to roll out this virtual launch. So we're very excited about that. We've been able to optimize product-driven workflows, answer all the questions. The APIs that were built were built, in record time, got us to this point. A project that might take 2-3 years down into 4 to 6 months to get the first iteration out that we're really excited about. So it's been a real positive experience for us and how we can accelerate our solutions, ultimately accelerating a path for financial institutions in the ecosystem. So I'll touch a little bit on the identity go back here on state-of-the-art identity verification and things that are really important when you're creating your digital strategy for account opening. One of the things that we looked at is we wanted to make sure that the solution solved challenges both for Canadian and US government issued IDs. You go through this process where through the scan of the ID, you're not having to enter any data. We're extracting that data. We're then validating the authenticity of the documents. There's a wide array of documents for all the provincial driver's licenses, whether it's BC Services card or passports and those types of things. And then being able to implement facial biometrics. And, we've done variations of this product over the past 3-4 years with clients, and a lot has changed in the last 3-4 years in terms of rejection rates and detection fraud. And we're really happy that with the various vendors that are work with us and that we've integrated these solutions with, in our benchmarking, we found a 99% accuracy in detecting fraudulent documents, about a 0.18% false rejection rate. So that's really important when looking at these types of solutions. So whether it's a Doxim solution or you have other things that you're looking at, really understanding the false acceptance rates, the false rejection rates, what are the benchmarks, and what is the user experience and those types of things is really important as an FI to be able to consider. And we've kind of gone beyond this, not just KYC from an ID perspective, but really looking at data and how can we use data to do predictive analytics and use machine learning with linear and non-linear models. And one of the things that we realized as we're doing this with Doxim is that, we can have a great customer journey, which is a key part of this, but how do we make compliance a competitive advantage? What can we do differently that the market isn't doing today in a unique way that's innovative, that will give you more data, more risk management? And we've been working with a group out of the US that really invented the concept of social biometrics. I've been working with this group for about 4 years, and they've made huge strides in the concept of data analytics and compliance. So when, I'll touch on a few of these things that we're doing within the system behind the scenes, whether it's collective intelligence on predicting risky identities through authenticity scores, fraud scores, being able to look at, as I mentioned, an email. How old is that email? Do the social profiles match the ID that they've submitted? Does their, the device intelligence and verification of device and being able to understand, is this device a risky device? Is it on some sort of bad fraudulent actor or bad account list? So we're actually connected to all the major carriers across Canada and North America to be able to look at, does the account of the device holder match the account name that's in this onboarding application? We're also looking at user behaviors, cognitive behaviors. Is there copying and pasting going on? How do we know this is not a bot versus a human? Then we're also hitting all of the validation, personal information databases for third-party fraud, synthetic IDs, global watch lists. So there's a number of things that are happening behind the scenes that's completely seamless to the end client or your prospect. And this is where you get this click-to-customer frictionless onboarding experience. And once again, the beauty of this is all of this orchestration, this technology stack, the complexity of that stack, and the configuration of it is all a managed service and optimized through AI and through our solution. And you're letting us know what your thresholds are. So based on your thresholds, we configure as part of the onboarding process and really manage that for you as a part of the stack. And then we get into e-commerce and the lessons of e-commerce and what it has taught us. One of the things that I saw is in most systems out there, the funding process is quite broken. It can take a day or two or three sometimes to get through that process. I've, throughout my history, had a lot of experience in payments, both on the e-commerce side as well as the telecom side. In fact, we were one of the first to build the mobile wallet for Lotto Quebec in Canada. This is, I think it was in 2010 when mobile was very new. People had not implemented mobile-based payment processing. So we've got a lot of knowledge that we brought into this partnership with Doxim around payments, payment technologies, and how can we simplify that experience. So we've kind of taken this e-commerce approach, which you'll see in the demo as well. When you want to fund an account, there's multiple methods. Whether that's credit card or it could be a Visa debit, EFT type of scenario. We've also been in conversation with Central One around their remote deposit capture solution. We have a number of vendors I've worked with on remote deposit capture for credit unions in Canada. Most of them have a relationship with Central One, so it'd be a very easy way to implement that type of a solution as also another method of funding. So we all know the more options you give your clients or your prospects, the higher chances you have with success in terms of them completing that process. And also we've been talking to various companies like ClickSwitch around feature transfers, payroll transfers, and those types of things. So we see those as solutions that can very easily be integrated as a phased approach within the solution. Deployment is always a key consideration, so we wanted to make that as flexible as possible as well for financial institutions, whether it's the white labeling process. So one thing it's really important is this solution is a completely white label solution, very seamless for an FI and your clients. We have a rapid onboarding and configuration process. It can be a multi-tenant or a single tenant hosting option, and all of the white labeling, colors, fonts, stylization can be done in a no-code, agile, rapid deployment. In fact, what you're going to see today, I think literally took us days to white label. We have a core platform that we've developed with what I call a mobitized basic your bank white labeling. Part of the prove out was, Doxim Financial give us a FI that you want to portray, and let's see how quick and fast we can get this deployed, white labeled, configured, and ready for you guys to demo. And that was done within days. So we're really excited about this opportunity where, as financial institutions work with us, it's a very fast track onboarding experience. And we kind of follow that with most of our solutions that we offer in the marketplace. So
yeah, thanks, AJ. That's great. I'm gonna take over here. So I need probably 15 seconds just to flip some stuff up on my screen, and then I'll start clicking away. So just bear with me for 1 minute, please.
Perfect. Chandy, while Sean is doing that, I noticed there is a question there. Were you going to moderate the questions and answer them, or did you want us to directly answer them live?
Yeah, you can go ahead and answer that. This one actually is about the banking systems that
Yes.
we integrate with. So if you want to.
Yeah, so maybe we can, while we're talking here, we can just even, that way everyone can hear that. So with, the question is about Fiserv DNA, are we integrated into that? And the answer is yes. So through the Doxim integration that we've done, we are integrated into the Fiserv DNA platform.
So I'm going to, can you guys see the PowerPoint here? Flipping back and forth.
I saw it and it disappeared.
Sure. So I'm going to do one thing quickly. You know, I thought this would be funny. Try to, whenever you demo stuff live, I always get the, you know, somebody in the corner saying like, hey, like you should really do a recording, you know, just in case something doesn't work. But I'm a do it live kind of guy. I'm a risk taker. So, you know, we're definitely going to give it a college try. So everything we're showing you today is absolutely real. But I just wanted to, I thought this clip was funny because when I was going through this, I remembered this, but we'll try not to fall into the pitfalls, you know, that Bill Gates.
Let's plug it in. It's going to say, hey, I see you plugged in a new device, and it's going to load in the appropriate drivers. You'll notice that this scanner build, whoa.
So hopefully we won't run into one of those moments here while I'm clicking through. So if you guys can see my screen here on the, I'm showing a couple things. So one, I'm showing a web browser and also my mobile device. So when folks come into this process, so if you're talking about a customer, client, or a prospect coming into this process, generally they would land, you know, on your public website, for example, or within online banking. There's often places to configure products, combinations of products, groups of products, buying packages within the site, and enabling consumers to click on a, you know, either a product or a subset of products to, you know, create an application or to actually subscribe to them. So the app works in a couple different ways where one, the products that are being requested can actually be pre-fed to the process, or clients can go through an e-commerce style, you know, right within the tool. Hey, you know, I want to add this debit card, or I want to add this loan, you know, once they've actually started the process. So in this instance, you know, they might be on the public website. They'll want to click like, hey, I want to open this, you know, Go Simple checking account. It will then take them to the onboarding tool with that account pre-selected. They can then, if they've already accessed the tool before, they can log in or they can register themselves. So in this instance, I'm actually going to go through the process on my phone. So again, this is fully, you know, fully real, fully working software. So this is a device responsive app that is fully connected into the platform. So in this instance, I am not a customer, so I'm going to register. And as part of that registration process, it's going to first ask me for my email and my mobile phone number. So that part of this is the start to the process of verifying customer data. So as we're acquiring phone information, we're actually using that in the background as they walk through the process to one, as you can see at the top of the screen, the OTP phone code. So confirming that, hey, like I actually do have this device in front of me. But that proves later on down the line when we're verifying against the provider, the phone provider data, actually being able to tangibly match, you know, this customer who said they had this device actually owns this device, and the data, you know, the data elements about them or their, you know, their profile data matches, right? So being able to correlate different data points as they're running through the process. So here, you know, I've put in the phone code. Once the phone code piece is done, it's going to take me into creating a password. So I'm just going to use, we'll just use one of these default passwords that the iPhone gives me that I'll never ever remember in my life. And then, so now it's actually created the account. Great. So I have an account. I've began the phone verification process. And as I'm walking through this again, in the background, a lot of what AJ was talking about in terms of, once we've gathered some raw demographic data, we're starting to use that, right, to do analytics, to do verification, KYC checks, all of that in the background. So here it's going to be ask me, am I a client or not? If I am a client, I can click yes, and it will allow me to log in with their bank information, and we'll pre-populate the data. In this instance, it's a prospect application, so a non-customer. So I'm actually going to start this from scratch. So it's going to say before we start, hey, you need to give us this information. We have a bunch of T's and C's and verifications. I'm going to read these about as much as a normal consumer would read them, which is not at all. So I'm going to accept them and click continue. And then it's going to bring me to some basic information about the account. So, hey, is this a joint account? If I click yes, it will start asking me, great, who are the other people that are going to be applying? In this instance, we're going to do a happy path, one applicant, no crazy PEP stuff, just I'm a normal person. We'll pick branch. I want my statements by email. I don't want overdraft. And then, so now it's going to actually start asking me information about myself. So the part of the templating process is the tool, as you can see, it knows what product I'm looking for or what product I've requested. So it starts asking me that data. So that templating process that AJ had mentioned is happening here. So it's actually going through and it's saying, hey, this person wanted a checking account, so we're going to ask them some basic information about that. But then the remaining fields that are asked for during the process are only those that we need to ask for this account. So if the customer wanted to come in and add a loan, for example, we might request additional details, and the template again will reflect that accordingly. So in this instance, I'm going to take a picture here of my ID. So don't steal my ID. If you could, that'd be great. Oh, 1 second here. Oh, well, there we go. All right, so what this is doing is it's actually using the widget from the verification process to confirm that the image is, one, real, that the ID itself is being captured live. I'm going to take a selfie here. And so it's going to use this selfie to do biometrics. So it's doing image biometrics to confirm that the my face that's actually taken from the live selfie matches the ID. So, hey, taking a look at the actual ID image, making sure that my live image matches the ID image, and then also verifying that the ID that I took a picture of is in fact a real ID. So this process does take a few seconds. So we do notify the client, like, hey, this is going to take 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So it's running through. I am a little bit beholden to my internet connection here because it does have to load, basically upload my images into the system. And then once they're uploaded, it does take that 10, 15 seconds. So I don't have the strongest internet in my basement here, so that might take 10, 15 seconds. But again, so what it's starting to do now is it's actually starting to also simultaneously correlate a lot of that risk data in the background. So again, usually this process generally 10 to 15 seconds it takes. So you can see here, it's populated my data. So it's having me confirm, hey, I am Sean Christopher Kennelly. This is accurate. I do live at this address. And as soon as I submit here, it does, again, another level of correlation. So now it knows my address details, and it starts to match my address information along with all of the other systems that AJ had mentioned. So things like, matching my demographic to my profile, to my phone account, to those providers to make sure that, the information that I've actually scanned off of my ID and I've put in the system is actually what is, true at other locations or with other services. So I'm just going to put some basic employer information here. I don't work for Doxim. And again, we're going to do a happy path here. If folks were tax residents of the US, they could put that, they could put in that information. Here, we'll just put in our Canadian social. I am not the tax resident of any other countries. And then as I'm walking through this as a consumer, it actually shows me at the top, like, hey, I'm, step 3 of 5 or step 4 of 5 in terms of running through the origination process. So it's taking all this data and it's feeding it into the back of the Doxim system. And so we'll see here again, a little bit of loading on the phone. Try that again.
You're having internet issues, I can see.
Yeah, I my phone,
living
in my dungeon in the basement tends to cause me some issues with my internet. So again, primary use of the account. It won't be on behalf of a third party. Again, we're going to happy path. So, the ability to define all the other PEP-HIL information is there. I'm going to click no, continue on. And then once the compliance piece is done, it's confirmation. So, hey, all this information is accurate. The user can go in and actually change it. Part of the templating process is to define, when we want to pull a credit bureau, for example. So in this instance, we have it enabled. I'm going to hit the credit bureau check, and then it is going to finalize the process. So pull up your agreement, T's and C's, digital signatures of those actual documents. And then, hey, great, success. So you actually have this account. So as a user, if I actually wanted to see, part of that is getting templated notifications that, hey, you've actually run through this process, welcome to the institution. I think, templating is a natural part of this. So that is obviously included, but then it's bringing through the consumer all the way to the end, which is then, hey, can we actually fund this account? So in this instance, I'm going to pick a credit card. It will then ask for how much money I want to move. Let's say I'll move $40. And then ask me for that card information. Again, this one does allow me to put in false information. It is a demo frame. Let's go here. And it then processes the transfer at the end. So now we've taken the consumer, again, minus those little, not blue screen of death type errors, but the issue with my my upload there in the camera. The process does take, we've timed it a bunch of times, anywhere from 3.5 to about 4.5 minutes to run through end to end. And then again, the consumer gets these notifications saying, hey, welcome to the institution, click a link to log into online banking, et cetera, right to their device. So that is, more or less the end-to-end onboarding piece, somewhere around 3.5, 4 minutes. What comes in, those additional, more complex use cases is bringing in loans, bringing in credit lines, adding debit cards, online banking accounts. Those are all obviously core capabilities of the tool as well. We just kind of wanted to make sure we demo the happy path as we went through the process. So that was the end of the, the self-service demo. There were a couple other things I was hoping to show in terms of abandonment and some of that workflow, but we are at time. So I think we'll take a second to see, if there's any other questions that you wanted to answer. So one was asking debit cards. I think I just mentioned that. Online banking, same thing. Yes, I just mentioned that. So those are, core capabilities of the tool, being able to subscribe to those, you call them ancillary services through the workflow as well. And Arvind had mentioned, is there a lending self-serve product? Absolutely. So it is effectively 2 modules that work together in terms of accounts and loans. Consumers will be able to subscribe to either loans and accounts or both simultaneously. So, the process of, I'm a prospect, I want a $10,000 line of credit and a checking account and a debit card to access those accounts. That is all possible through one workflow and one set of templating requirements within the system.
I guess, Sean, we've kind of run out of time, but we had a pretty a nice view of the data that goes into the Doxim platform as well, and all of the scoring and all the stuff that happens through the system. But I think, with clients that are interested and want to have a further deeper dive discussion, we could probably set up the appropriate time to go through that with them.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good. And I know, apologies, we're a couple minutes over. We do have a couple questions that remaining. I think we'll just maybe grab those and fire out some emails to the attendees that had asked those. So again, everybody, thanks for your time. Pardon that small glitch while going through the demo, but I think the second attempt we got through it. Pretty excited about what we're doing. And again, as AJ mentioned, feel free to reach out if anybody's interested in talking through or asking additional questions, or even getting some more detailed information about how it works, some of the integrations, the KYC stuff, how we put the pieces together. More than happy to chat with anybody about that. So again, thanks guys. Thanks AJ for being here today, and appreciate everyone's time. It looks like we got almost everybody to stick around a couple minutes over time. So thanks a lot guys, and have a nice day.
All right, thank you.